And hello again. Welcome to another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacy.
And my name is Phil Thompson. It's good to have you with us today. Thanks for being with us for this weekly podcast that we've been doing for the last 28 years. And, well, not 28 years, but actually a long time. And we are a company that works with churches and ministries primarily. If you just happen to tune in for the first time, we talk a lot about tech things, but we also talk about anything that's kind of ministry and church related because, well, we all have that background and we love to help churches. And so that's kind of what we do with this podcast for about a half hour every day. So I was going to throw a curveball at Steve, but I'll just go ahead and introduce our guest. His name is Paul Steinbrook, and Paul is actually the co-founder and the CEO of a company called OurChurch.com. And Our Church, OURCHUR. What am I just lost my spelling. CHURC, however you spell church, OurChurch.com. All right, we're into this 30 seconds. I already screwed it up. And let me give you a little bio, and then we'll turn Paul loose on you here. Paul is from Safety Harbor, Florida, which is in the Tampa Bay area. You're on the west side of Tampa Bay. Is that right, Paul?
That's right.
Okay. And Paul's married. He's got 3 teenage children, and he's also an elder at his church. He's life group leader. He plays bass. And the church, of course, is the Journey Community Church. And is that in Tampa Bay, Paul?
Yeah, it's in Safety Harbor, right where I live.
Harbor. Oh, okay, right where you're at. Okay, so you don't have to go far. And according to his bio here, he enjoys time playing soccer. He's one of those guys. And he's a hiker, and he likes the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now that's a hockey team, right? Tampa Bay Lightning.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, good deal. All right, so you're a hockey fan.
Mm-hmm. I am.
Yeah, we have some hockey here in Tucson, but it's what do they call it? Minor league hockey, I guess. I don't know, but we're more of a basketball team. So anyhow, you're probably wondering, why do we have Paul here? Well, first of all, Paul, welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast.
Thanks, Phil and Steve. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad that you're here. So we're going to talk today about SEO, and we've talked about SEO before. Go ahead, Steve.
Let me jump in. So we need to mention that we've partnered with Our Church. So they're a partner company with us. So we are it's just one of our friends in the industry. So
when you say partner, tell us what that means. I mean, are they sharing our profits or our losses? How does that work? I mean, it'd be our losses, right?
We're a strategic partner. We're going to promote their goods and services, and they'll promote ours. So
all right, good. All right. So Steve, what are we going to talk about?
So we're talking today about SEO, and I think we need to start off with what is SEO, because we're going to get a variety of people that are going to be listening. And so what is SEO? What is SEO?
Yeah, it's a good question. Good to start with. And I would say that SEO, first of all, the acronym SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. And it encompasses a whole bunch of different things, but everything involved with SEO they are things that help a website or local listings to rank better in searches, so that when somebody is searching for your organization or an organization like yours, that your listings, your website shows up in the search results towards the top.
Right. So, and if I'm a church, I would think the most obvious thing, if I'm in the Tampa Bay area or I'm in Safety Harbor, Florida, you're going to have people in Safety Harbor, Florida, typing in Safety Harbor Charismatic Church or Safety Harbor Church. And the goal as a church is you want to show up in what they call the organic listings within the Google. So,
absolutely. And one of the things that we say around here is that your website is the front door to your church. And we say that because most people, and some studies say as many as 80% of people, will visit a church's website before they ever visit the church in person on a Sunday. So it's really important to have your website where people can find it, because they want to look for it. They want to find out about the church before they come and visit. And so yeah, it's important to be visible in the search engine when people are searching for a church in your town, or maybe a specific type of church if they're looking for a modern church or a Lutheran church or something like that, so that you're available and people can find you and get information about your church so they can come for a visit.
Right. So they're going to make decisions. You're speaking our language here. We say this just about every week is, the people are going to check you out and see if it's a good fit. So your first impressions are on the web. And if you're not found when they go to Google to type these things in, then you never get a chance to make that first impression. And kind of my take on SEO is some things you can do on your website to improve your chances of showing up in that search list. So there's things you do to the site that's going to help you out. And you've written a recent article that talked about the 5 church SEO recommendations for 2020. So these are some keys to gain favor with Google.
Yeah, why don't we jump into that a little bit? And by the way, if you want to see that article, just go to ourchurch.com. And you guys have an area there where you've written articles, and that one that Steve just mentioned is 5 church SEO recommendations for 2020. So can we jump into that? The first one you say here is make sure your website is mobile friendly. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So as you guys know, and probably your listeners and viewers know, a lot of people are looking at websites on mobile devices, on their phones and on their tablets. And in fact, now 50% or more of website visits are mobile these days. And so Google realizes this, and they want to give their users the best experience possible. So now Google actually will penalize your website and give it lower search rankings if it's not mobile friendly. And so before you start any other types of optimizations or things with local listings, the thing you want to do first is to make sure that your website is mobile friendly, so that Google notices that and it gives it as good a search ranking as possible.
So when you say penalize, I mean, we were talking about hockey earlier. You don't go into the penalty box, but in a way you do with your website, because it's going to be down the list quite a ways.
Yeah.
When somebody searches. Yeah,
and it's not an official Google penalty like you might get for doing some other things that Google doesn't like. But they, like I was saying earlier, Google wants to give their users the best experience possible. And so if your site is not mobile friendly and another church in town is mobile friendly, they'll say, hey, we want to give the mobile friendly website a little bit better rankings because it's going to give a better experience to the user.
Good. Yeah, that's good. That's good information, especially now more than ever. As you were saying, over 50% of people are looking at everything on their mobile devices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, times have changed a little bit.
And making your website mobile friendly is going to be something that your webmaster is going to be in charge of, right? So there's some things they can do to make sure that site is going to work and be friendly on mobile.
Yep, absolutely. It goes to your website developer.
All right. So let's just move on here a little bit. So the second point you bring up on this, on recommendations for SEO, is set up, verify, and update your Google business listing. Well, what's that? Do I even have a business listing? I mean, expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. You may or may not have a Google My Business listing. And sometimes Google actually sets up Google My Business listings for organizations without them even knowing about it. So the Google My Business listing, it's basically what Google uses in Google Maps, which a lot of us use to navigate around town and everything like that. And so the results from Google Maps and the Google My Business listings also show up in the local 3-pack, as it's called. I hope I'm not getting too technical here, but it shows up in the regular Google organic results as well. And so if you've never set up or verified, claimed your Google My Business listing, you may have whatever information Google has decided to put in there for you, or you may have no listing at all. But this is a really important source of information because it does show up in the Google search results, and it shows up in Google Maps. And if you're not in those places or your information is wrong, then it could cause all kinds of problems for you.
Right.
In fact, I was just talking with a pastor a couple days ago, and he was telling me a story about how somebody showed up at their church on Sunday at the wrong time because they had done a search and gotten information off of Google, and it had the wrong service times on it. And so super important to set up your listing if it's not there, to verify it so that you get access to it, and then to make sure that it has all accurate information for your church.
And this is kind of the lifeblood for small business in your town as well.
Absolutely.
Small businesses need to, and in a sense, your church is a small business as well, and you should be making sure that the Google My Business piece is up to date and current. And this, maybe we'll dive into a tangent here, but there's things like reviews and other things that are going to show up on that Google My Business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you were saying, the reviews will show up there, done by other people. Photos will show up there. And then all of the information like your phone number, your address, things like that all show up in there. And the Google My Business listing is getting more and more important because sometimes it's the first thing that people see even before your website. And some people may not even go to your website. If they see your Google My Business listing and maybe it looks bad, or maybe they're just looking for a phone number or an address, and they may get your address off of that listing and then not go to your website. So it actually a lot of times is what people see and is the first impression even before they get to your website.
Right. Well, let me ask a question and maybe get us off a little track here, but how important are reviews? Because, obviously we're talking church here. We're talking, getting your church to show up and all that. How important are reviews, not only with Google, but like Yelp and those kind of things for your church?
They're very important, and for two different reasons. First of all, when somebody goes to your Google My Business listing, they're going to see those reviews, and that's going to have an impression on them. I've seen some recent research that says 90% of people take reviews into account when considering a product or a service or an organization. So people really do value those reviews. So that's important. And then the second aspect of it is that where your church ranks in Google Maps and in the Google local listings is based in part on how many reviews you have on your Google My Business listing. So that's one of the search ranking factors for local listings in Google. And so a church that has 20 reviews or 30 reviews is usually going to place higher in the search results than a church that has no reviews or 2 reviews.
Wow.
So it's important both from a user standpoint and also from an SEO perspective.
So let me jump in here before Steve jumps in. So how do I get that? I mean, if I'm a pastor or involved in my church, how do I get more reviews for my church? How do I go about doing that?
Well, you get reviews in the same way that you get anything else at your church. You ask for them. So you can do that in the service if you want to. You can make an announcement. You can send out an email to the people in your church. You can put a page on your website that says, if you're a member of our church and you like what's going on here, post a review, and then you can put links in there. One of the things that we've found to be most effective is just to email one person who's a member of your church each week, a different person each week, send them a link to your Google My Business listing and ask them if they'd post a review. And by having a personal invite rather than just like a mass mailing, you usually get a better response to something like that.
Okay, good. That's good.
And as a business, you also point out you can participate in those reviews. So If you get a good review, you can say, thanks for, glad you had a good time. Or if you get a bad review, you can reply to that review as well. I
Yeah,
mentioned, I mentioned that.
Go ahead, Steve.
I mentioned that I'm going to be vacationing near you this summer, and that was one of the key things we were looking at was reviews of properties. And if there was a bad review, if the owner of the property jumped in and said, hey, we're sorry you had a hard time, but here's why here's how we're going to resolve the issue or whatever, it really adds a lot. So it's a two-way communication with the reviews as well for your church. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we definitely recommend that churches do is pay attention to the reviews that you get. And you can thank somebody for a good review, but especially your response to the negative reviews goes a long way to demonstrating that you're engaged in what's going on online, and also shows your character and how you respond to criticism. If you're somebody who, when you get a negative review, you fight back with a negative response, people are going to see that and be like, whoa, I don't want to be a part of a church where, every time there's criticism, you get your head bit off. I want to be a part of a church where, if two people go bump and there's a disagreement, that, the person is nice about it, understanding about it, tries to resolve whatever issue there was, and makes things right. Because, nobody's perfect, right? And so we go through the process of just resolving issues in a Christ-like manner.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on here as we talk about your recommendations for SEO. So you have number 3 here, integrate Google Analytics. So if I'm listening to this and I'm going, what's Google Analytics? Tell us a little more about that.
Sure. So Google Analytics is a free service that Google offers, and it helps to track information about visitors to your website. And it can provide all kinds of insights into your website traffic. So it can tell you how many people each month are visiting, or even how many people each day or each week are visiting, how they're getting to your website, what they're doing on your website. And so one of the best things to do is to integrate Google Analytics with your website so that you know how many people are getting to your website from search engines. And once you have it set up, that allows you to evaluate and see how well your search engine optimization is working. So if a church doesn't have it set up now, they can go ahead, get it set up. It's really pretty simple to do that. And then they can be tracking how many visitors are coming to their website from this point forward. So a year from now, they can come back and say, wow, over the last year, we've increased our visitors by 30%, and here's where they're coming from. And not even just a year from now, but you can do it month to month and see how you're progressing with your search engine optimization, or really any sort of website marketing or other type of marketing that you're doing to help reach out.
Steve loves that stuff, don't you, Steve?
I mean, it's just, another thing you can get out of it here is just the behavior of what your people are doing. So if you, one of the things you can say, well, wow, our beliefs page is getting a ton of hits. If 40% of our people are going to the beliefs page, we need to make sure that is, and tuned up right. So just it lets you get a feel for what people are doing on your site as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a big advocate of setting goals and measuring progress on things. And so I think if you don't measure how you're doing in terms of visitors to your website, you have no idea how effective your SEO is. And so you don't know if it's really worth the amount of time you're putting it in, if you're doing it yourself, or if you contract with somebody to do the SEO for you, then you have a way of measuring the return on that investment by saying, here's what we're paying and here's what we're getting in terms of website traffic.
And plus, it'll help you be in tune with any potential surprises, such that, Google changes their algorithm all the time. So your site may fall out of favor and you might not know it unless you're, staying on top of your Google Analytics.
Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff. All right, so we got about 5 minutes left here. Let's go with the fourth.
Two more points here. Yeah.
Yeah, we got so you have integrate Google Search Console. Here's another one of these. The Google Search Console. What's that?
Yeah, Google Search Console. This is another free tool that Google offers. And it's kind of like a next level up from Google Analytics in a sense that it gives you a lot of information about how your website is being, how Google sees your website. And so if Google has any problem reading any of the pages of your website, it'll let you know that. If you've gotten any penalties or have any problems with your website, it'll tell you that. It also tells you what keywords people are using to find your website. So that can be really helpful too, as you find out like what kind of searches people are doing and ending up on your church website.
And again, to implement something like this, you need to have somebody like your webmaster, somebody that can help put this together.
Yeah, there are a couple of different ways to do that. You usually have to put either a little snippet of code into your website code or verify in another way. But yeah, it's a job to pass on to your website developer.
Okay, good. All right, good deal.
With the information, I guess it can be a little technical, but some of it is, they provide some really good, I think, summary reports. So, someone at the church can create these Google accounts, the analytics accounts and Search Console accounts, and they'll, like you said, they may identify some problems that you can't solve, but you could pass that on to your webmaster. But a lot of the tools and benefits, I think, of this would apply to the, non or semi-technical person as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, Steve.
All right, fifth point, develop a church SEO plan. All right, so we're talking about SEO here. We're going through all this stuff. All right, so a plan. Some tips on how we can develop this plan. How long should the plan be? Elaborate on this a little bit, Paul.
Yeah, this is a really broad point here because it really depends on where your church is and what in its SEO. Because like if you're just starting, you've never done any SEO with your website before, your plan for this year might be just the 4 previous points that we've talked about here to make sure your website is SEO or mobile friendly, verify your Google My Business listing, integrate Google Analytics and Google Search Console. That might be your plan for the year. But then you might add in other things. If you're further along than that, you may want to do some optimization of the pages of your website, trying to get keywords onto the pages of your website so they rank better in search results. You might want to do some of the things that we mentioned earlier with your Google My Business listing. You may want to try to get more reviews for it or add some photos to it. And there are some other things that you can do to help improve the search rankings for a website, like blogging and doing some additional content stuff. And so there are really lots and lots of different things that you can do. And so it really depends on where you are in your SEO and what your time budget or your financial budget is with it. And if you're really not sure what to do, it's helpful to talk to somebody who has experience and is an expert in SEO and just to help you put together a plan for it.
Gee, do you know anybody like that, Paul, that maybe is... So I'm being facetious here, but this stuff is very important. If you want to reach people and you want people to connect with your local church, your website is very important. And Paul, we've been talking here with Paul Steinbrook, and Paul is the CEO of ourchurch.com. And so, I'm sure there's some people listening to this podcast. They're going, wow, this sounds really good, but it's over my head. And this thing really went fast. What do I do? I would probably point people to your website and just go to ourchurch.com, and you can look at some articles there. And how can people reach out to you, Paul?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things. First of all, I think if somebody really wants to do SEO on their own, I mean, we're here to empower the church and to help local churches to be successful in their ministries. And so if you really want to do the SEO on your own, we put together something we called the Ultimate Guide to Church SEO, which is on our blog. And so you can read that, and it gives you tons of pointers and information about that. But if you say, hey, I don't have the time or the ability to learn all of this stuff myself, I'd rather have somebody do it for us, do it well, then you can reach out to us. You can email us at support@ourchurch.com. Or if you're looking at the SEO section of our site, we've got a form there that you can fill out to get in touch with us that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is good stuff. And Paul, we appreciate you so much. We've talked with Mark a little bit in the past, your brother. And real quickly, how did you guys get started in this thing? I mean, you've been doing it for like close to 20 years now, right?
Yeah, actually more than that. We started back in 1996, and Mark and I actually, we're brothers, as you mentioned, and we had started a couple of businesses previously, even in high school and college, and we kind of had a sense that we would love to do something together once we got out of college. And I went to school and did some software development stuff and was tinkering with the web when it was just starting to get started, at least publicly. And at the time, there were very few churches online, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could create a website builder that would help churches to be able to build their own websites affordably? And so that's how we got started, with a church website builder. And since then, we've branched out into custom design and SEO and other things, and that's how it got started.
That's tremendous. Our founder, Steve Lacy here, he actually started the internet. Did you know that?
Him and Al Gore?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'll let Steve. We're really running out of time here, but this is good. Steve actually was in the aerospace industry for many years, and he was on the internet. I always tease him. He was on the internet before there was an internet, at least before it was public. So we have a lot in common.
Before there were browsers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, good. All right, so folks, again, we're out of time, but if you have any questions about this, you can reach out to us. Our email is support@streamingchurch.tv. That's one of the things we do here, streaming video. And I'm sure that if you have any questions, Paul or others here can help you. And as Paul said, we're on the same page here. We want to help the church. We want to help you any way we can to reach people using technology and other things. And that's kind of what we do here. So, Paul, thank you so much for your time today.
It's been a pleasure and great to talk with you guys.
All right. And Steve, thank you for yours. And I'm Phil Thompson. And folks, thanks for viewing and listening to the Church Solutions Podcast. We'll catch you again next time. Have a great day.